Our house is on fire. I am here to say our house is on fire. According to the IPCC, we are less than 12 years away from not being able to undo our mistakes. We are facing a disaster of unspoken sufferings for enormous amounts of people. And now is not the time for speaking politely.
As a UN messenger of peace, I have traveled all over the world for the last 2 years documenting how this crisis is changing the natural balance of our planet. I have seen cities like Beijing choked by industrial pollution, ancient boreal forests in Canada that have been clear-cut, and rainforests in Indonesia that have been incinerated. In India, I met farmers whose crops have been literally washed away by historic flooding. In America, I have witnessed unprecedented droughts in California and sea level rise flooding the streets of Miami. In Greenland and in the Arctic, I was astonished to see that ancient glaciers are rapidly disappearing, well ahead of scientific predictions. All that I have seen and learned on my journey has absolutely terrified me. There is no doubt in the world scientific community that this is a direct result of human activity and that the effects of climate change will become astronomically worse in the future. Our planet cannot be saved unless we leave fossil fuels in the ground where they belong. Now think about the shame that each of us will carry when our children and grandchildren look back and realize that we had the means of stopping this devastation, but simply lacked the political will to do so. Yes, we have achieved the Paris Agreement. More countries have come together here to sign this agreement today than for any other cause in the history of humankind, and that is reason for hope. But unfortunately, the evidence shows us that it will not be enough. A massive change is required right now, one that leads to a new collective consciousness, a new collective evolution of the human race, inspired and enabled by a sense of urgency from all of you. We can congratulate each other today, but it will mean absolutely nothing if you return to your countries and fail to push beyond the promises of this historic agreement. Now is the time for bold, unprecedented action. It is time to declare no more talk, no more excuses, no more 10-year studies, no more allowing the fossil fuel companies to manipulate and dictate the science and policies that affect our future. The world is now watching. You will either be lauded by future generations or vilified by them. You are the last best hope of Earth. We ask you to protect it, or we and all living things we cherish are history.
Climate change presents a critical challenge for global food security. The men and women who produce our food, farmers, herders and fishers, are hit the hardest by the consequences of climate change. Farming communities need to build their resilience and ability to adapt to changing climate in a way that they can feed a growing population without further depleting our precious reserves of soil and water. This is why we need climate-smart agriculture. Climate-smart agriculture is not a new technique. It is an approach to identify production systems that can best respond to the impacts of climate change and to adjust these systems to suit local environmental conditions now and in the future. This approach can help transform agricultural systems to support sustainable development and food security in a changing climate. It's about increasing sustainably production and incomes, adapting and building resilience to the impacts of climate change, and wherever possible, reducing greenhouse gases. We can make climate-smart agriculture a reality. These are the ingredients we need. Expand the evidence base. Policymakers need to know the current and projected impacts of climate change, and just how vulnerable the agricultural communities and ecosystems really are. Improve policies. People working in many different fields, agriculture, climate change, food security and land use, need to collaborate. Work together on supportive policies and plans, taking into account the entire landscape. Support and empower local institutions. Local institutions are needed to develop capacities and motivate men and women farmers. This way, they can adapt their practices and plan together the best way to do climate-smart agriculture. Combine financing options in a new way. We need to bring together financing sources that target agriculture and climate change. Food security depends on how we treat our planet. Let's make sure our agriculture is productive and sustainable for generations to come.